Today we will be learning the last chapter, chapter 15, our environment. What is environment? Everything above the earth consists of the environment. Here in the figure you can see there is a tree, there are grasses, there is sky, there is soil. Everything above the earth is a part of our environment. Therefore, environment in scientific terms is the sum total of everything around an organism, including both living and non-living components. The living and the non-living factors influences the environment. There are two components of environment. One is the abiotic and the next is the biotic. Abiotic means non-living and biotic means living components. Now let us see what are abiotic factors. Abiotic factors are non-living factors that affect environment. That means it includes climatic factors like wind, water, light and temperature. Physiographic factors like height, slope. Edaphic factors like mineral, soil texture, soil organisms, pH of soil, etc. Now biotic factors. Biotic factors are the living factors that affect environment, and grazing animals, insects, lichens, human parasites, all are biotic factors. What are grazing animals? Yes, those who are eating grass. Insects, as you know, lichens. Lichens means fungi and algae together. They live together and they are called lichens. Humans and parasites. Parasites are those organisms which take all the nutrients from other organisms, leading to a negative impact on that particular organism. Now let us discuss upon the most dangerous thing in the earth. Waste. Waste are the useless or discarded materials. They may be gaseous, liquid or solid in nature. If wastes are not used properly, then it can be a danger to the earth. Now types of waste. There are mainly two types of waste. One is biodegradable. That means it can be decomposed by useful bacteria present in the soil. And the second is non-biodegradable. That means it cannot be decomposed into smaller components. Example for biodegradable waste are kitchen waste. An example for non-biodegradable waste are waste such as plastics, Now in biodegradable waste, this waste is broken down by biological process, that is by saprophytes. Saprophytes are organisms that live on waste materials so that it can decompose the waste into smaller particles. Now this is a very slow process. And non-biodegradable waste, they cannot be broken down by biological processes that you already know, right? The waste materials such as plastics and polythene bags remain as such for thousands of years. Now, there are many drawbacks of non-biodegradable waste. They create environmental pollution. This is not a new topic to you. All around you, you can see that environmental pollution is caused by these non-biodegradable waste. It is an undesirable change in physical, chemical and biological characteristics of air, water and soil. What environmental pollution means? There is some undesirable change, very bad change in the physical and chemical and biological characters of air, water and soil. So there is some change in the air, water and soil. The characteristics of these air or water or soil changes due to this pollution. Now next is ecosystem. What is ecosystem? It is a structural and functional unit of biosphere comprising living organisms and their interactions with food chain and biochemical cycles. So in this chapter you will learn what is biosphere, what is food chain and what is biogeochemical cycles. So an interaction between all these together is the ecosystem. You can see here in the figure there is an ecosystem represented. There is a sun, there is earth here, there is water, soil, air. So these all are comprises the biosphere along with the living organisms. And food chain we will learn now, and biochemical cycles. All together, all these three things together, they interact to form the ecosystem. Types of ecosystem. There are mainly two types of ecosystem. One is natural ecosystem and the other is artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, as you know, it can be a forest, lake, ponds, etc. Artificial ecosystem means an ecosystem which is made by human being or created by human being. So that can be a garden, a crop field and an aquarium. Now next is type of organisms in an ecosystem. So just consider this ecosystem, natural ecosystem, forest. So in forest you can see many organisms, trees, butterflies, insects. So these even deer, tiger, snakes. So all these come under different categories. So let us see what are the types of organisms in an ecosystem. First category being producers. What are producers? The organisms that can make their food by themselves by utilizing solar energy or sunlight. Examples of producers are some photosynthetic bacteria, grasses, shrubs, trees, or plants are producers. Now next category are consumers. Consumers are the organisms that depend upon these producers for their nutritional requirement. That means they cannot make their own food. These consumers can be herbivorous, carnivorous and omnivorous. What is herbivorous? Yes, herbivorous are organisms that eat only plants. Carnivorous, those organisms that eat herbivorous. That means they depend upon other animals for their food. Omnivorous, these organisms are either herbivorous or carnivorous. That means they eat both plants or other animals for their food requirement. Now herbivores are also called primary consumers because they are the first person eating the plants. So the examples are deer, rabbit, mouse, etc. Carnivores, they are also known as secondary consumers, and these animals depends on other animals for their food requirements, and the examples are frog, jackal, wildcat, etc. And omnivores, they are those that feed on plants as well as animals, and examples are dog, bear, ant, etc. Now coming on to next set of organisms known as parasites. They are those that live on other organisms' body. Okay, other organism body means that is called host organism, either on or inside the food and fulfill its nutritional requirement. So they live either inside or outside of the host and fulfill their nutritional requirement. Examples are Plasmodium. Plasmodium is a malaria parasite. Tapeworm, Ascaris. These are examples for parasites. Another example is ticks that you find on dogs or cat. Now the last set of organism in the ecosystem is decomposers. Decomposers are those organisms that feed on dead and decaying organic matter, and they are microorganisms. Earthworm, fungi, bacteria, etc. are decomposers. Now what is a food chain? Food chain, it is a process of eating and being eaten. So it is a sequence in which we see who eats whom. In this sequence, one organism eats the other organism and the same is eaten by some other organism. If you watch this diagram here, you can see grass. Who eats grass? Grasshopper. Who eats grasshopper? A bird can eat a grasshopper. Who eats a bird? Yes, snake can eat a bird. And who eats snake? An owl or a vulture can eat an snake. Now who eats a vulture or an owl? When it dies, it gets decomposed. Now this decomposers gives nutrients to this grass. So this is a chain in which organisms are eating and being eaten by other organisms. Here, as you know, grass is a producer, grasshopper is a primary consumer, the bird is a secondary consumer, the snake is a tertiary consumer, and the owl is a predator, and then decomposers. So generally, a food chain consists of producers, consumers, and decomposers. Each step of a food chain is called its trophic level, at which transfer of energy takes place. That means when one organism is being eaten by the other organism, the energy of the first organism is transferred to the second organism. So there are steps, each steps are called a trophic level. Usually a food chain consists of 4 to 5 trophic level because after that energy availability is almost nil. So when this energy from one organism to the other organism reaches, the entire energy does not goes to the next organism, and thus at the fifth trophic level, the energy availability is almost nil or zero. Now, food chains are represented by drawing pyramids where different levels are occupied by different organisms. Now, these food chains, these are easy representations only for us to understand different trophic levels of the organisms. For example, they are giving a terrestrial food chain. Terrestrial food chain means terrestrial organisms, the organisms that live on land, having a food chain. Green plants are being eaten by deer. Deer eaten by lion. Or grass eaten by grasshopper. Grasshopper eaten by frog. Frog eaten by snake. Snake eaten by a hawk or an eagle. So this is a food chain. It can be drawn in pyramids also. This is a lateral food chain, which now we can also draw this in pyramid shape depending upon the number of organisms. So let me say one more example. Aquatic food chain. Aquatic food chain means the organism that lives in water. Aquatic plants are eaten by zooplanktons, and they are eaten by small fish eaten by large fish. Next is food web. Till now we were learning about food chain. Now this is a food web. Food web is defined as a interconnected food chain. That means in a food web there will be a lot of food chains connected together. In this diagram, if you see, you can see a plant or a corn is eaten by grasshopper. Now grasshopper can be eaten by two animals, rat or frog, right? Now this rat and frog both can be eaten by a python here. Now this python can be eaten by an eagle. The rat can also be eaten by an eagle, right? And another example, a plant can be eaten by a butterfly, and this butterfly or a dragonfly or a housefly also can be eaten by a frog, right? So you can see there is a network of food chains in a food web. So a food web is an interconnected food chain. Okay. So now there is a 10% law. According to the 10% law, the energy that gets transferred at each trophic level is only 10% of the energy available at previous level. That means the energy that grass has, the total energy will not be converted into the next organism. Not converted, transferred into the next organism. Here we see 10 joules energy was available in the producer, that is grass, and that was eaten by a deer. Now from that only 10% of the energy will be transferred into the next organism, the lion or the carnivore. Understood? From each level only 10% from the particular organism is transferred to the next organism, and this law is called as 10% law. Now what is biological magnification? It is defined as an increase in the concentration of some harmful substances at trophic level. Sometimes these harmful chemicals may enter into food chain. It is surprising to note that each step the concentration keeps on increasing. For example, in the water, zooplanktons live. And if there are certain harmful substances in the water, The water is directly taken by zooplanktons or small microorganisms. So there, this harmful chemicals increases. Here you can see in the figure, in the water, the chemicals present is 0.3 into 10 raised to minus 5 ppm, that means part per million. But in the next trophic level, that is the zooplanktons, the chemicals has increased to 0.04 parts per million. Now this zooplankton is eaten by small fish. Now you see there the chemical concentration is 0.5 parts per million. Now the small fishes are eaten by large fishes and the chemical concentration is 2 parts per million. And the large fishes, they are eaten by fish eating birds. So there you can see the chemicals is in 25 parts per million. So here you can see the chemical is increasing, and this is called biological magnification. Now what is ozone? You might have heard about ozone layer. There is a ozone hole on earth. You celebrate September 16th as Ozone Day. What is ozone? It is a molecule of oxygen, three atoms of oxygen, O3. This is present in the stratosphere. What is stratosphere? It is one of the layers of the atmosphere. Okay. So in this stratosphere, ozone is present. And what is the function of ozone? Ozone helps from UV rays and other harmful rays from getting into the earth. Ozone is formed when UV rays in upper atmosphere splits oxygen atoms. So in the figure you can see O2, one molecule of oxygen, it splits into O and O. So other oxygen molecules, O2 molecules, they take up this oxygen atom, one atom, and they becomes O3. That is ozone. What is the function of ozone? Ozone protects us from ultraviolet radiations or UV radiations, as it does not allow ultraviolet rays to enter Earth's atmosphere. That if enter into Earth may harm us in many ways. In summer seasons, you might have heard about sunburns. If that sunburn is extreme, what will be the condition? See, so these are the functions of ozone, and what happens if ozone is not there. They may rise the temperature of Earth. So if the Earth's atmospheric temperature rises, there will be global warming. We will learn what is global warming. And if it comes in contact with your skin, it can cause skin disorder, right? If the temperature increases, the body temperature increases, and then it can cause skin disorders. It can also cause eye disorders. If ultraviolet radiations come inside, it can cause eye disorders and many much more diseases. Now what is ozone depletion? The thinning of ozone layer by air pollutants is called ozone depletion. For this, some synthetic chemicals are responsible, like chlorofluorocarbons that are used in refrigerators, air conditioners, etc. So, when we use refrigerators and air conditioners, there is a particular chemical known as chlorofluorocarbon which is emitted from these equipments. So these chlorofluorocarbons, they just go to the ozone layer and causes the thinning of the ozone layer. The thick ozone layer becomes thin, and as a result, ozone depletion occurs, and it can cause a hole on the ozone, and that was known as ozone hole. Montreal Protocol. It is actually an agreement made by industrialized nations for what? To freeze the production of CFCs. That means no more CFC refrigerator or air conditions will be produced, and some other alternative will be kept in the refrigerator or air conditioners, so that CFC is not produced. And it was done in 1987 by the United Nations Environmental Program. And now instead of using CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs and PFCs are used. So over 30 years we are healing our ozone together. Now garbage. What is a garbage? It is refuse of fruits, vegetables and food along with other domestic waste. Yeah, the waste that is from your kitchen, the waste products from your kitchen is the garbage. These are considered as waste, and there are certain methods for disposing the waste in right way. So what do you actually do with the garbage? Actually, some people throw it out, right? So there are certain methods to dispose these waste in a right way. First method is landfill. That means you will dip a hole under the earth, and then not under the earth, just make a deep hole and then put these waste under the land. Now next is for preparation of compost, for the gardening purpose and all, to make vermicompost, not vermicompost, other compost. To make compost, garbages are being used. Now next is burning at high temperature. Burning at high temperature. It is called incineration. That means these wastes are burnt so that it becomes ashes. Now last method is production of biogas and manures. So from this waste, biogas can be produced, by which certain equipments can work. And you might have heard about biogas. Certain vehicles are having biogas, so that it works under biogas. So for the production of biogas and manures also, garbages can be used. So now let us see some questions. Why some substances are biodegradable and some are non-biodegradable? This is due to the reason that some substances can be degraded by the enzymes released by microorganisms, and some do not get degraded. Next question. Give any two ways in which non-biodegradable substance can affect the environment. Non-biodegradable substances can create pollution as they become the source of foul smell, right? So they act as a breeding ground for many diseases. Another question, what are trophic levels? There are various steps in food chain at which transfer of energy takes place, and this is known as trophic level. How do decomposers function in ecosystem? Decomposers use dead bodies as their food. So they break complex matter into simple ones which mix into the soil and are reused by the plants for their nutrients. Give two methods that can reduce the problem of waste disposal. The two methods are, one, recycle, that is plastic, paper, etc. can be reused again, and second is dumping. The waste can be dumped in pits under the soil and can be used as a manure. So that was all with the chapter. Study well, stay safe and have a nice day. Thank you.